Welcome, my friends, to our definitive Spotlight Cache Buyer's Guide for the season of July. What are the best caches to be able to chase after a second dinner has completely retooled the card acquisition economy here in Snap, and how should you be interacting with the old card acquisition through the token shop, if at all? We're going to break it all down in this video, starting out with these Spotlight caches. These are what are going to be available throughout the month, changing every single week, so you really have to be ready and target what you most want to chase after. I want to couch my recommendations to a couple different categories of players. If you're somebody who is series complete or very close to series complete, in general, you're going to want to grab the series 5 releasing cards, so Jean Grey and Echo, out of the caches, and then try and target the series 4 releases out of the token shop. I actually recommend skipping Legion entirely this season. He's just not exciting to me at all. Mirage does seem to be quite good, so my general recommendation: spring for Jean Grey and Echo out of the caches, skip Legion, buy Mirage out of the token shop. This should put you about even in terms of Spotlight cache expenditure based on what you can earn throughout the season. It should put you slightly ahead in terms of a token stockpile, as long as you are still able to pick up the Token Tuesday bundle, which I do recommend doing. You'll be a little bit behind in gold in terms of how they are retooling the gold economy, but it will put you in a great place for being able to keep up with the meta cards, and then also still having stockpiles of resources that are ready to roll into the next season of cards, which has some very exciting releases as well. Now, to specifically grade our different Spotlight caches here, if you are somebody who is slightly smaller in terms of your collection, you're still missing, you have holes in your series 5 and 4 cards, this is an incredible opportunity to be able to patch up those holes and be able to round out your collection with the best cards available in the meta. And this first cache is an absolute banger, largely because I am putting a huge amount of priority on what Jean Grey is able to do. She seems to be a meta-defining monster. Playing her actually feels unfair in a number of different scenarios. I think that we have yet to find even the most refined Jean Grey deck, and what the early testing just has her going through the roof of widely applicable, great in a number of different lists. Her control is just unparalleled. And also elevating my recommendations here on this cache is the Null. I am auguring into the future, and based on the data mines of what is coming in the next season, I believe that a Null-led destruction deck or a destruction discard hybrid deck is going to be one of the top decks in the meta. So especially with X23 coming around, you are going to want Null in your collection. Prepare now and you will be rewarded in the future. This is honestly remarkable that I'm still grading this cache as an A+, with the Living Tribunal landing as definitely the worst card spotlighted here, and one of the worst cards in the entire game. He is just abysmal. He should drop all the way down into Series 3, and I'm really hoping that we see some balance changes around improving him as well. You do not want to open him, but with the value, the extreme priority I'm putting on Jean Grey and Null, I am still putting this cache as the highest priority cache to blow your horde on and try and acquire these two cards. Sliding on to the next week, we're looking at the Echo-led cache with Iron Lad and Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Forgotten, more like. Nobody's managed to hack Kang and show good results with him. I know a couple people do enjoy running him, but he just overall has not seen any use in dominant decks. And Iron Lad, while good and had a lot of hype around his release, doesn't seem to be opening up his own archetype. He's a force multiplier in the decks that he gets played into. So if you ever see an opponent playing Iron Lad in a deck and you want to pick up their deck, or if you see a content creator with Iron Lad in their list, there's always something else that you can substitute into the deck that is still going to perform at largely the same power level and is not going to change the playstyle of the deck at all, which is why I'm pretty low on where this cache is overall. I do like Echo. I think that Echo is going to be a great card. A lot of control being leveraged from this 1/2. She has a passive effect that she is going to cancel the ongoings of any of the enemy cards that are played to her location. The potential of being able to play initiative snipes, of knocking out Devil Dinosaurs, Hawks, all of these other ongoing engines. Bounce using Iron Man a lot right now, Mr. Negative using it as well. Even Nulls that are being popped down by Destruction. If you can combo Echo with a couple other control pieces, your opponent could really feel the pinch. So she is the shining light here out of the cache, but with Kang being so bad and Iron Lad, I don't really feel like lending too much special. I'm pretty middling on Iron Lad at the moment. That's why we are grading this cache so low. I'm really trying to target my recommendations on these caches to be very picky, because opening just one of these spotlight caches is an enormous investiture of your resources. So you really want to make sure that you're getting a great payout here. If you're really hoping to be able to chase Echo and you're missing Iron Lad, this could still be a cache that you spring for. And I hope that you just don't open Kang or heaven forbid, one of the Kang variants instead, and then have to chase even deeper to be able to grab these cards that you're looking for. The next week, also, I am none too impressed. Legion is my least anticipated card releasing this month. I really just don't see a reason to run him in any decks. I would love to be proven wrong, but right now I'm putting a very low priority on Legion. He looks like a stinker here. And then High Evolutionary and the Hawk flanking him on either side. These are good cards. And Evolutionary as a big bad. He has recently been nerfed. He was falling a little bit in meta favor anyway, and then the nerf on top, I think, has fully knocked him a step below Thanos. So I'm putting Thanos, coming out the next week, at the highest priority of the big bad that you want to have. So if you're weighing those two, definitely wait. Hawk as well has been slipping a little bit in terms of meta relevance. He's just so vulnerable to control. Shang-Chi and Enchantress both able to slam him pretty hard, and he requires a lot of setup in terms of the other tools around him, so it's hard to be able to work in Cosmo to protect him. He's been faltering a little bit. He's fine. He's certainly fine, but rather than the king of the meta that he once was, he's more of a prince right now. So with my faltering step on the Hawk, the recent nerfs to High Evolutionary, and my low value on Legion, I am also labeling this as a potential cache to completely pass on. Also, it has two Series 4s in here, the Hawk and the Legion. So you might be better served just going over to the token shop to bridge the hole in your collection. If you're missing both High Evolutionary and Hawk, and you really want to run their decks, in that case, this is a cache to go for. But in any other case, I would just pass and try and grab one of the cards out of the token shop instead of opening them right here. And this takes us to our last one, which I really like. Oh, I was very close to rating this an A instead of the B+. It is winners all across. It is certainly the most solid lineup of spotlights with no losers across the entire three. I think that Mirage is going to be great. She's going to be good in Bounce. She can be played in Furious Dino as well. I think Thanos is the best big bad that is currently available and one of the strongest decks, period. Especially incredible alongside Jean Grey. He has multiple decks that are strong in the meta. You have Thanos Destroy, you have Thanos Junk, and you have Thanos Ongoing. All of them capable of doing incredible things. My forecast is that we are going to see a Thanos renaissance going through this season, even into next season. I'm promising high here, guys. Thanos is incredible, and I don't think that he's going to be receiving nerfs either. Maybe we're just theory crafting spitballing too much. I do think that Thanos is great. I think that Mirage is going to be solid, and Master Mold as a sneaky tech card up against Bounce, which is the strongest deck in the meta right now, I think is a little bit underutilized. The molded and folded game plan is still good to be able to counter Bounce, being able to clog up their hand, keep that kitty on the board. That breaks down a lot of their game plan, and if you can especially catch them when they throw out the beast so that he's not returning all the cards that he was expecting to from the stack, that can absolutely destroy their game plan. So I think the Master Mold is poised well to be a control card that's effective in the current meta, and thus with the full set of cards here, rating this one very highly. General recommendations then here are to chase the very first cache to make sure that you get Jean Grey. If you want to be stingy, pass on the Echo or Legion. Spring for these in the specific situations where you're missing the two most desirable cards out of each of the caches, or if you're really excited for what I'm labeling as the dud, either Legion or Kang, that could also elevate these above how I am prioritizing them right now. And then the final cache is the next one for you to go ahead and throw in on if you're looking for a couple of the cards here. Again, if you already own Thanos or Master Mold, then just adding Mirage out of the token shop is a pretty easy expenditure. As long as you're getting a couple of these new cards and are able to interact with the weekend missions to get their token rebates, you should be looking pretty good on the season overall. And this transitions us to our discussion of the token shop. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts on my power rankings here in the comments down below. It's getting to be a messy subject as to what caches you want to spring for because everybody's in a different situation. Some people really want the variants that are coming out. If you own one of the cards or two of the cards but not the others, but really want to chase one, how do you decide? We'd love to talk your decision making down in the comments. But now we do have the Series 3 cards to review as well. You get that one free Series 3 card out of the shop every single season. There's been no series drop. The developers are not holding themselves to any kind of cadence of series drops, and they're trying to cultivate a larger set of Series 5 and Series 4 cards that are very competitive to be able to facilitate what is appearing in the Spotlight caches. So it's unlikely to see very many shakeups down here. And without significant balance changes hitting any of the cards here, this is largely the same to the previous seasons that I've done buyer's guides. The one addition is that Beast has been elevated into what I'm now calling the meta leaders category. These are the absolute top cards: Sarah, Wave, Doctor Doom, and Beast, that you want to be able to have as cornerstone cards in your deck building repertoire. And then Bast in Bounce is another huge piece right now. We have Thor, Jane Foster, Wasp, and Lockjaw all making appearances for the power of that deck in the meta at the moment. The cards have to be all bundled together to access the full power, which is why it's hard to recommend any one of them over the others. Patriot, Dracula doing good things, and then Wong is actually definitely the strongest right now out of the amplifier category. Oh, it's hard to say because Mystique is doing great things as well. Absorbing Man is, I think, a little bit underutilized, but he's really disappeared right now from the meta. Wong and Mystique doing great things. Honestly, they get run together a lot of the time for some of the Wong Wombo combos that are able to high roll through any opponent as long as they get their pieces to assemble just right. And with Cosmo not too popular right now, it is pretty free to be able to run the Wong combos. I love seeing those. Have always enjoyed that card ever since the beta days. In Series 4, breaking things down a little bit differently now, we're looking at, and this is very important to note, you guys notice what was completely missing from the token, the Spotlight caches? No Battle Pass cards. There's no Zabu. There's no Hitmonkey. There's no Ghost Spider. Is there another one that I'm missing in there? Anyway, I don't know if this is going to continue. My guess is that Zabu will make an appearance in next month, but right now we don't know. He is certainly worth the purchase, and Series 4 here, he has been in the meta for a very long time. Tried and true commodity. He is great. Spider-Ham, I could easily see being increased to a 2-cost and still seeing play. So if you grab him now, enjoy him as a 1-cost. Thank me later. He is absolutely incredible. Down here in the not worth category, we're just going to breeze over these. I guess at least the developers had the good sense not to throw Snow Guard or anything like that into the spotlights. We have the category up here of all cards that are, I consider, worth the tokens, but I would try to grab out of a cache if you're looking for them, as long as there are other spotlighted cards in their cache that you also want. If they're the only card that you want out of the spotlight, then I would just grab them in the cache. They're certainly, again, all worth their tokens. And then the fanboy specials. Nimrod is certainly leading this with his recent buff up to 5'6". Stature is struggling a little bit in the mid-range list to be able to have relevance. I wish that she was able to get her power back now that she has anti-synergy with Wave instead of synergy with Wave, which was one of the reasons that her deck was so oppressive back when it existed. MODOK is struggling in discard because Apocalypse discard is just murdered by the Spider-Ham. He's good in Hela as well, but Hela has always been just so inconsistent that she's never found a great place in the meta. And then Sauron with Shuri is doing fine, especially off of the Red Skull buff, but it is struggling up against Shang-Chi, Valkyrie, and Jean Grey, so it's hard to imagine it having a solid share of the meta going forward. Series 5, the big bad shakeup I love talking about. I've already mentioned I think that Thanos has passed High Evolutionary with High Evolutionary's nerfs. Galactus is still struggling to find his footing. I'm seeing less and less of him. I think that he is good in Ranked if you can surprise people, but in Conquest is just no shot. And then Kang doesn't seem to have any relevance whatsoever. The wait for drop category, didn't really know what to call these, but all of these cards would rather see them in lower series before you try to acquire them. I think Silk is amazing as a Series 4. She's right on the edge in Series 5, and then Living Tribunal and Howard the Duck, I really want to see them just drop all the way down to 3 as quickly as possible. I would love to see some buffs or interactions. Howard's probably never going to get changed. Living Tribunal, I really hope gets changed because his effect is so interesting. I just I want them to have some kind of relevance. The grab and a cache, exact same recommendation of the previous ones. You want to be able to grab these as long as there are multiple cards that you're chasing out of the spotlight caches. Otherwise, I do consider them worth the tokens in the shop if you just want to specifically grab them out to fill that hole in your collection. And then the top priority is over here. It's the bounce faces, baby. Kitty Pryde, I hope you already own her. I hope that you got her for free. If you didn't, you gotta grab her. She is one of, if not the best card in the game right now. Closely followed by Jeff. Incredibly, Jeff is so good. He's good with Jean Grey. He's good against Jean Grey. He's good with Storm, against Storm, with Professor X, against Professor X. If you're building any deck and you're trying to round out the lower curve of the list, throw Jeff in there. You might end up optimizing away from him later on, but he is just so good, and his flexibility is certainly going to be able to win you games and cubes. And then Hitmonkey, Battle Pass card, that is a standout for Bounce. I am anticipating that Bounce is going to be receiving some nerfs over the course of this season. I'm not sure really where they're going to land, and Hitmonkey is able to play both in Bounce and in the Sarah Miracle alteration of the deck. It's running largely the same core of cards. I've even seen Hitmonkey run in Mr. Negative and a couple lists as well. Man, I don't know. Are there going to be nerfs on Hitmonkey? I'm personally not forecasting any, but the devs have often surprised us as to what they target to be able to decrease the power of specific archetypes. We'll see where things really land there, but I think that Hitmonkey is certainly worth it, and he is reigning supreme right now with that Bounce deck. And that concludes our buyer's guide for the month of July. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. The content just gets lost in the ocean unless you tell the algorithm you enjoyed what you just watched. May the caches that you open give you exactly the cards that you are chasing after. Till next time, thank you guys for watching. Keep on snapping.